Welcome back to Mahabharata, Echoes of Eternity. In today's episode, we enter a pivotal chapter in the saga of the Pandavas, return from exile. After 13 long years spent in the wilderness, enduring great trials, hardships, and spiritual growth, the Pandavas are finally ready to return to Hastinapur. But their return is not without its challenges. The years in exile have transformed them, sharpening their resolve and solidifying their strength, both physically and spiritually. This is the moment they've been waiting for, but it will not come easily. As they prepare to return, they face a critical decision. Will they claim their rightful kingdom, or will they continue to endure the suffering imposed upon them by Duryodhana and the Kauravas? The 13-year exile was a time of profound transformation for the Pandavas. During this period, they not only faced physical trials but also refined their skills in combat, diplomacy, and governance. In the forest, they encountered numerous challenges that tested their bond as brothers and their individual abilities. Arjuna gained divine weapons, Yudhishthira deepened his understanding of Dharma, Bhima honed his strength, and Nakula and Sahadeva mastered their arts. Now, the final year of their exile had come to an end. The time had arrived for them to return home. The Pandavas had spent these years in suffering, yet they had grown stronger and wiser. As the 13th year of exile drew to a close, they were ready to reclaim their kingdom and seek justice for the wrongs they had endured. Before they could return, however, the Pandavas had to consider how best to approach the Kauravas, especially Duryodhana. Despite all they had suffered, Yudhishthira, as the eldest and most virtuous of the Pandavas, was reluctant to resort to violence. He desired a peaceful return, hoping that the Kauravas would be reasonable and allow them to reclaim their rightful share of the kingdom. Yudhishthira sent emissaries to Duryodhana, offering the peaceful settlement. They would accept a small piece of land to govern, provided the Kauravas allowed them to return. The emissaries returned with disappointing news. Duryodhana, filled with arrogance and hatred, rejected the offer outright. He refused to give even the smallest part of the kingdom to the Pandavas. He was intent on keeping the throne for himself and was unwilling to share any power. It was clear that there was no chance for peace. Duryodhana's pride and jealousy had blinded him to reason. His refusal to compromise would ultimately lead to the destruction of the Kaurava dynasty. Yet, Yudhishthira still held hope that some diplomatic resolution could be found. This hope, however, was slowly fading as the reality of Duryodhana's obstinacy set in. At this critical juncture, Lord Krishna, the divine incarnation and cousin of the Pandavas, came to their aid. Krishna, who had been a guiding force for the Pandavas throughout their exile, now played a central role in their return. He urged the Pandavas to prepare for war, but also counseled them on the importance of righteousness in battle. Krishna assured Yudhishthira that though the battle would be arduous, their cause was just, and they were fighting for Dharma. Krishna also sent emissaries to Duryodhana with the final message: if the Kauravas would not offer even a small portion of land to the Pandavas, there would be no other option but war. But Duryodhana, true to his nature, rejected Krishna's counsel as well, choosing instead to focus on his pride and unwillingness to yield. Krishna's guidance solidified the Pandavas' resolve. The Pandavas were no longer seeking peace, they would now take what was rightfully theirs. The great war of Kurukshetra was about to begin. With Krishna's guidance and support, the Pandavas began preparing for battle. They gathered allies from across the kingdoms, securing the support of various kings and warriors who recognized the righteousness of their cause. The mighty Bhishma, Drona, and Karna were among the key figures who had allied with the Kauravas, but even they knew that the Pandavas were formidable opponents. The Pandavas, on the other hand, were united and resolute. They had endured years of hardship and had grown stronger as individuals and as a family. Arjuna's divine weapons, Yudhishthira's wisdom, Bhima's might, and the support of their allies gave them hope. They were not just fighting for the throne of Hastinapur, they were fighting for justice and the restoration of Dharma. The preparations were vast. The Pandavas assembled their army, arranged for their supplies, and gathered their war chariots, horses, and elephants. Meanwhile, the Kauravas, led by Duryodhana, did the same. The two armies began to position themselves on the battlefield, each knowing that the stakes were higher than ever before. As the day of the battle approached, both sides knew that war was inevitable. The grand armies of Hastinapur, one led by the Pandavas, the other by the Kauravas, were now ready to clash. The battlefield of Kurukshetra was set, and with it came the awareness that this war would change the course of history. Yudhishthira, ever the embodiment of Dharma, knew that this war would come with immense personal and moral consequences. But he also knew that the Kauravas' refusal to offer even a part of the kingdom, their unjust treatment of his family, and their rejection of peace had left him with no choice. His loyalty was to righteousness, and the fight for justice would not be avoided. The return from exile was not just the return of the Pandavas to their kingdom, it was the beginning of a much larger and more complex struggle, a struggle between dharma and adharma, between good and evil. As the Pandavas prepare for war, they are not only preparing to reclaim their kingdom, but to restore the balance of righteousness. The great battle of Kurukshetra looms on the horizon, and all that has come before this moment has led to the inevitable clash between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. The journey of the Pandavas is far from over, and the story of their return from exile is but a prelude to the epic conflict that will follow. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mahabharata, Echoes of Eternity. Stay tuned for the next chapter.